Come on. Live.
Coaches. Blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, they can't hold a flame against you, ay. Blow the whistle, blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, got the game, it ain't no issue, yeah. Blowing the whistle, I had enough with you, the championship, it is gone. Ain't listen to you, I can't give it to you, cause you don't know what I've been on. This is the Coaches Podcast.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into the Fantasy Coaches. I am your host, as always, guys, Coach Steve. We have another fun episode for you guys tonight here. Week 5 is among us here. I can't believe we're already a quarter way through the season, John. It is crazy. How are you doing today, brother?
I'm doing well. As you can see, I'm fresh out of work. I got my nice shirt on. Florida is back to getting crazy. We're in season, so there's a lot of people, and a lot of people need to drink. So I'm out selling booze like crazy. But yeah, everything's good. Football is exciting. We got I don't want to say a exciting matchup. We have an intriguing matchup tonight. So yeah, I think it's going to be good. I like week 5. It's fun. We're starting to have to navigate bye weeks and all this other stuff.
Yes.
So the fantasy season is getting very fun.
It sure is. Yeah, definitely. The bye weeks are the next test. The first 4 weeks are like, did you draft a good team? And then it's like, all right, can you have the depth to last the next 8 more weeks into the season or 7 weeks into the season? So it's gonna be a lot of fun. But we're here to help you guys. We're gonna make the league hopefully a little bit easier for you. Of course, obviously, if you don't already know, your bye week people are the Chargers, the Seahawks, the Browns, and the Bucks this week. So a lot of big names. So we're going to have some names to fill in for the week. Some guys that you might not be thinking about starting that you might need to. But again, we're always going to go through each team and we'll kind of go from there. News-wise, again, I didn't really put a thing together for news. There's not too much news going on. Guys like T. Higgins missed practice, Devontae Adams missed practice, Pat Frymuth missed practice. So 2 of those guys are going to likely be out this week. Matt Barkley. Saquon Barkley is looks like he might be playing this week, which is great. Jimmy G is in the final protocol of his concussion, so he might be back this week here. Jonathan Taylor might be playing. Jameson Williams might be back and playing now. So there's a lot to talk about today, but we're going to get right into the games. Of course, if you guys have any fantasy questions, please throw them into the chat and we will answer them for you. So let's start here at the top. We're going to London. And the first question of the day, would you rather start Gabe Davis or Calvin Ridley in this matchup?
Wow. I think right now I would rather start Gabe Davis. I don't know what's going on with Calvin Ridley. He's losing target share. He's losing snap share. So I think maybe he's just kind of, I think week 1 was great to see Calvin Ridley look good, but I think we are starting to realize that he is a man who hasn't played football for a year and a half. And so there's going to be some growing pains. And Gabe Davis, on the other hand, looks great. Back-to-back weeks with a touchdown. I think he's really kind of established himself as a very solid number 2 on that offense. So I'm currently more comfortable with Gabe Davis.
Yeah, no, the target share, 2 targets this past week, definitely not good in a matchup where the game wasn't out of reach for them to continue to throw the ball here. And they have a much tougher secondary that they're playing. It's tough to want to trust Calvin Ridley, because he's just not performing to standard. And Gabe Davis isn't doing much better. He's getting touchdowns, which is great. He's got 3 straight weeks of touchdowns. So it's really hard between the 2. But I'm going to take I presume, better offense personally in this situation here. And rock Gabe Davis here and hope for another touchdown from him in week 4, which is crazy to think because I think after week 1, we were like Calvin Ridley locked and loaded, wide receiver 1. And we have not seen that out of him in 3 weeks now. So, yeah, not the best. A couple starts real quick before we get to some questions. You saw Josh Allen. You saw James Cook, Travis Etienne. Christian Kirk's playing very well, so you have to throw him in your lineup at least as a flex play. Evan Ingram's a good enough tight end 1 to play. You sit in Damian Harris, Latavius Murray. I honestly, personally, I'm sitting Trevor Lawrence this week. I just haven't seen anything out of him to trust him. And I didn't put the Bills tight ends. You starting any of the Bills tight ends? You starting Kincaid?
I
yet,
mean, I
or
know
are you
that
not there?
not yet. I know the tight end landscape is getting kind of thin. You know, we just saw Pat Fryermuth go down, so I get it. If you're kind of in a pinch, you could, break glass in case of emergency, play Dalton Kincaid. But I'm still not comfortable. I'd rather play like a Logan Thomas probably over him still. Like there's way more upside with Dalton Kincaid, but I'm just on this week. I'm not totally sold.
Yeah, I mean the matchup is decent enough, but again, he's still not breaking away in terms of the offensive snaps yet from Dawson Knox yet. He's seen targets is great, but it's not enough for me to trust him completely. But again, if you're like John said, if you're worst case scenario, you need to throw him in there. He might have a pretty decent day for you. First question in the chat today: what's going on? Happy Thursday!
Happy Thursday!
Right. I made this trade. I need your guys' opinion. I got Jamar Chase. I traded away Deebo Samuels and Mark Andrews, and his backup tight end is Cole Kmet. So are you cool rocking Jamar Chase with Cole Kmet, or would you have preferred Deebo Samuels and Mark Andrews moving forward?
I'm assuming this is redraft, and if that's the case, yeah. If it's, I don't know.
Let's talk about for this season here. How do you feel rest of the season with this crew here?
I would honestly, rest of season this year, I think I'd rather Deebo and Mark Andrews. That's why this this would totally change my opinion. If it's dynasty, that's totally great. Like you have Jamar Chase, that's great. Like I'm okay with that. But in this year, I think, the Bengals might continue to struggle. I mean, Burrow looks injured. The offensive line isn't gelling the way we expected. It could be a kind of tumultuous season. Not that Jamar Chase is bad, like by any stretch of the imagination, but he could have a wide receiver, 17 finish on the year, and you'll be like, oh, like that was a waste. So I think redraft, I would rather take the security of Mark Andrews and the slight upside of Deebo Samuel, and but dynasty, I'm totally okay with buying in on Jamar Chase in dynasty right now. Of course,
yeah. Deebo's old, Mark Andrews old, Chase is 23. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think I'd still lean the Chase side personally on this one here. I've never been a big Deebo fan, and ever seems like when Brandon Ayuk is in the lineup, Deebo is not having his best days, and he's already banged up this season here. So I know T. Higgins might be gone for a couple of weeks here. I mean, obviously it's a downgrade from Andrews to Clement, but I think with Chase still, I'm still buying in that upside that he's going to have a really good season, and Clement's fine. So I do like getting the Chase in this one in area scenario. So, but I agree. I get your opinion on that, John.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll get away from the London game. This is the 9 a.m. game. So set your lineups, guys.
Yeah, set your lineups. Wake up.
Yes, wake up early. Houston Texans and the Atlanta Falcons here. Question of the day: do we go back to Tank Dell after his bad week through 4?
I think so. I think this is kind of what you're gonna get with rookies. Rookies will have down weeks. It just is what it is. As they build up consistency, they build up all these other skills that it takes to be a very steady, solid veteran wide receiver. He's still a young, undersized rookie, so I get it. But he is electric. The Texans are throwing at a crazy rate. CJ Stroud looks awesome, and so I think you can absolutely flex him. To me, he's a good flex option. It could be 2 points, it could be 20 points. So I always kind of look for those guys for my flex. I think they're more important.
Yeah, I think you can go back to him as a flexible option, though. You just have to lower your expectation a little bit. I just don't see that it's not a slam dunk, obviously. We thought maybe this is going to be a slam dunk kind of player moving forward. It's going to be up and down. I think it will have to do with game script a little bit here, too. We saw the Texans ahead. They didn't have to throw the ball as much. And it obviously suffered for one of the 2 wide receivers, and Dell was one of those guys. This could be a matchup where they're going to have to stick it all game long, and they might have to throw a little bit more than they would if they were ahead in games. So there's potential opportunity for him to kind of bounce back. So hold on. Wait. Another question in the chat here. I see only reason I accepted it was.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Like that's a fair. Yeah, that's a fair. If you are afraid of that, which is totally understandable. I get that fear as well. Then that's a fine trade. That's a fine trade. I guess maybe I'm higher on Debo than the average, fantasy player, because I look at Debo and say, okay, he is a great football player in a really good offense. Like, there might be some bad games, but there'll be good games too. Like, and that's kind of how, it is. It's certainly, he's a far cry from his wide receiver 1 finish now that they added all these weapons, but he could still have a big week just as much as, AJ Brown can, anyone else can.
Right. I accept it. All right. Some other starts. I'm okay going to CJ Stroud, obviously. Brandon, Bijan Robinson, I've got to start him. Nico Collins is a start. I'm sitting Desmond Ritter. Tyler Algier is not doing enough with his opportunities. Dalton Schultz, I'm not trusting his week 4 performance there. You going? I think you might have to, but you starting. I think you have to start Dameon Pierce. It's really hard to sit him because of the running backs and bye weeks. It's kind of hard to sit him, but don't expect a lot. What about Drake London? Are you going after Drake London this week?
Nope. I don't really feel comfortable with any of the pass catchers in Atlanta. I just don't. I just, it's, to me, it's going to be too much of a headache. It's all promise, no fulfillment. And, we're seeing guys like, Jonnu Smith get target. It's like, I don't know, until they start consolidating targets and figure out what they're doing on offense, it's Bijan Robinson and move on.
Yeah, no, I would prefer not to start Drake London if I can this week. It's really not a position I want to go in. And just like John was mentioning with the tight ends, it's really hard to trust Kyle Pitts. I said in my article that I'm working on, he's no longer a must-start tight end anymore. He's splitting time with Jonnu Smith in terms of targets. They saw 17 between the two of them, which is great. But Jonnu Smith did so much more with his opportunity than Kyle Pitts is doing with his opportunity. And I think you could argue more that Jonnu Smith is a better play this week than Kyle Pitts, and that's something crazy to say. I think I'd rather avoid this whole passing situation in general. But yeah, definitely not a fan of what the Falcons are doing outside of Robinson. Bob Woods I threw on the in-between list here just because he does play the slot a lot of times for the Texans, and the Atlanta Falcons if they do give up opportunity in the secondary, it's with the slot. So he could have a potential decent outside deep league flex play. So I just wanted to bring his name up there. Cameron in the chat. What's up, coaches? Is Joe Burrow throwing 400 yards and 5 touchdowns this week? I would say probably not. But it's possible. Anything's possible.
I mean, listen, what's crazy is it is Joe Burrow, and he is still one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So is it possible? Sure. No T. Higgins with a banged up calf. Do I see it? No, probably not. But yeah, it's so funny. Joe Burrow is one of those players where he could go out and have a monster game and just silence everyone's fears. And, I hope it happens because I have a lot of Joe Burrow, but I'm not holding my breath.
Right. Respect it. Panthers and the Lions. Are we starting Miles Sanders?
That's a great question. I probably wouldn't. I think the Detroit Lions front 7 is, a hard matchup. They're going to get to Bryce Young in a split second, so I don't see the Carolina Panthers having a great offensive day. And usually you want your running backs on teams that put up points because then they're going to get touchdown potential, especially a player like a Miles Sanders who isn't going to just rip off some 70-yard run. He needs to get volume and be in scoring opportunities and have positive game script and all that stuff. I don't really see that going this way for Carolina Panthers this week. So I'm fine if you want to pivot off of Miles Sanders.
Yeah, the difference between him and a guy like Dameon Pierce is that Dameon Pierce is actually seeing like literally all the work, and he's the only one really seeing the important touches. Miles Sanders is seeing a good amount of work, but Chuba Hubbard is coming in and taking a lot of the passing work. And you saw last week where they were behind in a game, that important game that was pretty close, that Chuba Hubbard was kind of on the field more, and Sanders is dealing with that injury. So I would avoid him if I can, but like I said, you might have to start him because of the bye weeks right now, but probably not the best start this week. Some good starts are, you definitely want to go out and continue to start Amon St. Brown, Dave Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs. You got to go back to him. I don't care. Adam Thielen's an okay start. Josh Reynolds is an okay start. Sam Laporta is obviously a good tight end one to start. St. Brown is dealing with an injury, so keep your eye on that. He didn't practice today, so just keep your eye on that. But you start him if he plays. Sits Bryce Young. You don't touch the rookie. You don't trust DJ Shark. You don't trust Hayden Hurts. Even though I think that's what I meant to say, but it's not spelled the right way. Let's see. Do you start Jameson Williams in his first game back?
No, probably not in his first game back, but yeah, I'm not that ballsy. That would take a lot of stones to throw. Yeah. He could, because Jameson Williams could go out and literally have run 5 routes this first week.
Yeah.
He could do 0 targets just as easily as he could do a good game. So I'm psyched that Jameson Williams is back in the lineup, and
2 weeks early.
He's going to add some, real legitimate deep threat speed. But yeah, I'm not willing to plug him in right away, right off of the street.
I respect it. I threw Jared Goff in here just because the matchup favors the run. So that's why we both have Montgomery and Gibbs on the left side here. So Goff might throw 250, but he might not score a touchdown. So just keep, take that risk as it is. But that's just wanted to throw and mention his name out there. So, all right. The Tennessee Titans and the Indianapolis Colts. Are we trusting Jonathan Taylor if he's back for his first game? Are you putting him in your lineup if he is back? That is the biggest question this game.
That is the biggest question. Jonathan Taylor on his first game back, I would trust more than Jameson Williams on his first game back. You know what I'm saying? I still think it's risky, even if he's active. I still think it's, there is a world where it goes really south for you. But we talk about running backs all the time. If you're picking between, Miles Sanders and JT on his first game back, it's like, I'll take the risk with JT on his first game back. So I think it's all situational. I will be very transparent. I have been trying to actively trade for Jonathan Taylor the past 2 weeks because I do think that, he is, if it's not this week, it's next week, and he'll be back and be, we're watching Zach Moss get 100% of the work. Jonathan Taylor is just going to go back to getting 100% of the work. So I don't know. I don't know if I would want to do it this first game back, but if he's active, you absolutely can start him and take that risk. It's a big, big risk, but there's, a lot of upside.
Yeah, I agree with you. You kind of almost have to take the risk here, because unless you're that good at running back where you could sit him in a bad matchup this week, because it's a really bad matchup for him. The Titans did just allow a 60-yard rusher. I think Joe Mixon had 65 yards, but Jonathan Taylor's average against the Titans in his 3 years have been about 49 rushing yards. So it's not the greatest matchup, but you might be forced to just throw him in and say, screw it, let's see what happens. But if you can avoid it, you have to really be good at running back to do that. You start Anthony Richardson, you start Derrick Henry. I think DeAndre Hopkins is seeing enough targets that you just throw him as a flex. Michael Pittman's a good enough, obviously, player right now. He's seeing good targets. I'm sitting any other pass catcher for the Titans. I'm not trusting Nick Westbrook and Keene to come back and throw another good game up. Alec Pierce really hasn't done too much. The Colts tight ends are too rotational. If you're in a 1 QB league and you need a quarterback that's a stream this week, is Tannehill good enough for you?
Nope.
Okay, you don't trust him enough. All right.
Nope. I don't trust him. In a 1 quarterback, I don't trust him at all.
Okay.
2 quarterback, I think obviously with bye weeks and everything kind of going on, you might have to. But in a single quarterback format, he hasn't shown me any signs of I can figure this out. I think Tannehill is looking more like Matt Ryan day by day by day.
Yeah. Okay. We got a question in the chat from Pay King. Which RB should I trade Pittman Jr. for? Okay, that is a fun question right now.
Which running back should I trade Pittman Jr. for?
Ooh, that is a stumpy question here.
No, I really am trying to think.
Let me go through you talk and then I'll
yeah.
Here.
So
Pacheco, James Cook.
Yep.
James Conner.
Yep. James Conner, James Conner, I think I would too. Pacheco.
If you need an RB for the season,
Yeah. No, I get that. Yeah, I'm trying to think could you do Miles Sanders? Would Miles Sanders get Pittman? Would
Ramondre
a
Stevenson might be a
Ramondre? Yeah, I
decent.
mean Ramondre's a good one.
I
Ramondre's
don't
a good
hate
name.
Rashard White off a bye and coming off, and hopefully the matchups will get again a little bit easier for him. He's still seeing all the workload.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know if you can think of
Yeah.
anything else there, John.
I don't think you could. I mean, you might be able to swing DeAndre Swift for Michael Pittman.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe a little hard right now. He's doing really well.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to throw that mad risk out there,
I'm sorry, I'm reading this the wrong way. Pittman Jr. 4. Okay, now I'm getting it. Okay, I was going the other way. I'm thinking he has a running back and he's trying to acquire Pittman. Now
no, he's trying to trade Pittman off for
trying to get somebody. Yeah, go after. I would go after Ramondre is a good buy low running back right now. I think for sure. Alvin Kamara is another one. I don't hate the idea of going to get Alvin Kamara. I mean,
might be hard to get a guy like that because I don't think Pittman is like a over the top wide receiver right now. Like, oh, gotta have Michael Pittman. Like, oh yeah, I have Michael Pittman. That's great, but he's not like over the top kind of guy. I don't know.
Would you trade Michael Pittman for Dameon Pierce?
No, because I don't like Dameon Pierce at all. So that's part of my reason there.
Great.
But I mean, it would make sense if you're looking for an RB because he does have a big workload, but I don't like him personally. Peking to say thanks. Ramondre was who I was thinking of.
Yeah, Ramondre's a good one.
Ramondre's you want to take that major risk, go after Najee. I mean,
Najee's another
big
good
risk,
one.
but like Najee's still seeing workload. Question in the chat: how do you feel about Scary Terry tonight?
I like him. I think he's a good wide receiver too with some upside. The Chicago Bears defense is not scary at all, and the targets are going Terry's way. It looks like Sam Howell, kind of has eyes for him.
For a big game, hopefully.
Yeah. So I think that you can. Terry is kind of in your lineup. I don't think he's really, got the same touchdown upside as we might have thought maybe week 1 or week 2 because Howell has kind of come back to earth a little, but he's still very solid wide receiver 2 week in, week out. And, he could have a pop. He could have a pop game, especially against the Bears.
Right. Yeah. He's fine. He's like a borderline wide receiver 2 that has some upside. Again, he hasn't had a big game yet, but this could be that big game. I hate using Thursday night players, but like I have so many Thursday night players starting, it's scary. But
I know.
It's a very favorable matchup, and then he's seeing the targets enough. I mean, you got to take that risk with the big reward. Hopefully, comes tonight if you're playing Scary Terry. So I don't hate him. I like him. Zach Moss, I don't know if Taylor's playing or not. We'll see. But Zach Moss is kind of on the same level. If he's seeing all the carries, he's a good enough play. Josh Downs, sleeper wide receiver. Tajay Spears is sleeper RB this week because you're the bye weeks this week. So definitely decent plays there. The Giants versus my Dolphins here. Do you have biggest question in the game? I guess outside of Saquon per se, if he plays, do you have any faith in a Giant?
Nope. If Saquon is active and playing, I will again take the risk and play him because I think running backs are just that type of situation right now. But outside of that, I'm totally cool with moving away from any other Giant.
Yeah. Again, I'm not the biggest fan. You have to be in like a desperate situation that you need to start them because the Dolphins defense, compared to some players that some of the defense they've played lately, they do let up points. They do let up opportunities a lot. So like guys like Daniel Jones, Dallin Waller, I think Wanda Robinson is actually kind of a sleeper play on its own. Risky, but he's a sleeper because he's looked decent in the 2 games he's been back. But these are big upside plays that you need to take a risk on. So I'd only start any Giant if say you're 1-3 right now and your matchup does not look good. Like these are the type of players because you'd probably be 1-3 if you're rostering some of these Giants that you want to take that shot on because the matchup works. So and Dolphins don't pressure quarterbacks as like great as we saw the last few weeks and some of the other defenses that the Giants have played. So as a Dolphins fan, I know that unfortunately it sucks, but yeah, Daniel Jones, Darren Waller, they're both high risk, high reward players that you would play. The Dolphins duo, you start them. I'm still starting Raheem Mostert, but more of a flex, not as a strong RB2. Tua, you play him. Tyreek, Jalen Waddle. You sit the Dolphins tight end Darren Smite. You sit Darius Slayton, Jalen Hyatt. If Matt Breida does fill in for Saquon, I'm going to probably sit him personally, but it is a nice situation that he might be out there. So if Saquon sits, Yeah, this one was easy. This one was a nice
Yeah,
quick one.
this game.
I like that.
Yeah, it's basically start your Dolphins and don't really start any Giants, and you'll probably be good.
Yeah, agreed. The New Orleans Saints and the New England Patriots. This game, this is one of your teams here, John, but I don't really have a good feeling about how this game will turn out overall. Do you trust any of your Patriots in this game?
I think you can play Hunter Henry because tight ends are, kind of abysmal, and he has just as good a chance of scoring a touchdown as any other tight end. But outside of that, I wouldn't really love starting any other New England player right now because I think the New Orleans Saints defense is strong. I think they're really good against the run, and I don't trust Mac Jones to throw the ball. So yeah, I'm okay if you want to take this week to not beat your head against the wall with a Patriots player. I absolutely get it. I think this game could get I think it could get ugly quick. They're out Christian Gonzalez. They just had to trade for JC Jackson to try and just, fill a secondary. Yeah, just to try and get a secondary put together. There's already conversations of Bailey Zappi. I mean, things in the next 3-4 weeks could get really dicey for New England. And if you want to use this week to sort of take a break from that, that's totally justified because I think the New Orleans Saints is a very strong defense. So I think you can play Hunter Henry just because tight ends are all a roll of the dice.
That's true.
But yeah, I'm cool moving on from everybody else for this week.
I respect it. Picking asked Herbert on a bye. Do I pick up Daniel Jones, Russell Wilson, or Joshua Dobbs?
Ooh, that's actually a great question. Dobbs has been playing okay.
So I would pick Dobbs if this makes your situation.
I kind of would too, which is great.
The way I see it is that Daniel Jones would be the pick if you want this massive upside play, but there's just too much risk for me to want to play him unless you think your team is good enough to live with a 9-point game from Daniel Jones. Russ has a tougher matchup. He's a guy who's probably going to get you 14 or 15, and it's 14, 15 points from your quarterback. Not terrible, but not great. Joshua Dobbs, though, he's been playing so well, and he's been playing against good defenses. Not like he's playing the shit defenses. He's playing the Cowboys, the 49ers. He's rushing for 50 yards a game. This offense is looking good in terms of they're playing with some kind of swagger, fight for your life situation, and it's working. And in a matchup where I'm not, scared of the Bengals who just let Ryan Tannehill have a decent game, I would pick up Joshua Dobbs, and I'd roll my chance with him this week personally.
Yeah, I think I'm the same way. Looking at the matchups, Russell Wilson playing the Jets, I don't want that at all. Daniel Jones, I think, again, like you said, it could be a massive swing for the fence type of play. But again, you could also be looking at 12 points. And so Dobbs to me is a much more steady. I don't really see him having a bad game. I think a bad game for him this week would be 16 points, but a good game would be 25. So, off the waivers on a bye week, I'll take that. So I'm totally cool with playing Dobbs right now. I got him going as my second quarterback in a 2-quarterback league. So yeah, I mean, he's
wild
fine.
Wild,
right? Wild.
He's only traded to the team less than 2 months ago, but wild time in fantasy.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you, John. I mean, I'm okay playing Hunter Henry. Obviously, he's the tight ends. I'm still gonna start Ramondre just because it's Ramondre Stevenson, and I think there's enough workload for him to have a decent game. Probably more as a flex, but I'm still gonna play him. You start Chris Olave. I don't care about the one catch game. No. He's gonna bounce back. Alvin Kamara, you start with confidence. Not starting Zeke, definitely not starting Mac Jones. Derek Carr, I don't know if I really want to start Derek Carr. I don't know how his arm situation is to that I trust him enough to play him this week. Not starting any New England wide receiver, honestly. New Orleans Saints tight ends, see ya. Don't want those. Are you going to go after, you used to flexing Michael Thomas? I know Rashad Rasheed's probably more of a deep league thing right now, but he's still flexing Michael Thomas.
I think you can, but in my opinion, you're kind of limiting your upside when starting Michael Thomas. We talked about it with a guy like a Tank Dell. I like those types of players more as my flex because there's at least potential for a big game. Michael Thomas, he's not going to goose you, but he's also not going to have 16 points. all right, I'm going to get 8 points from Michael Thomas and just live with that, which is fine. I think you can, but I don't know. I just think you're really kind of limiting your maximum potential. You hope he gets a touchdown. That's the only way Michael Thomas saves your day, is he scores. And so.
I agree. All right, let's get over to the next game here. The Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Do you play Najee Harris and Jalen Warren?
Man, I think the running back market is so tough. I think you kind of have to. I think you kind of have to. I mean, it's not going to be pretty. And Najee Harris, it's been very bad, but he is still getting volume. He's still getting, 20 carries a game, and it's just hard to find that level of replacement anywhere. I think we all have to limit our upside and limit our expectations for Najee Harris, but he's another one, kind of like Michael Thomas. If he gets in the end zone, you have a good day. If he doesn't, then it won't be pretty. And so, I think it could be really crappy if Kenny Pickett doesn't play and you have Mason Rudolph or Mitch Trubisky or whoever, the Steelers have to roll out. But maybe that's a good thing for Najee. Maybe they run the ball a million times because they don't want Mitch throwing it. So
I think they said Kenny Pickett is going to play in this game.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Same situation, an injury. You don't want your quarterback to get hurt more. Let's run the ball with our 240-pound running back and hope for the best. So, and I think everyone probably thinks this game is going to be somewhat of a blowout, but this game, these two teams and their rivalries make games
it's going to be a hard
close
game
together. Like, I think what I saw was they averaged the last 5 games 29 points total. So, like, they're not scoring big games between these. It's like 14, 15-point games. Like combined, like that's what their scores are at the end of the day, 12-14, 16-10. Like it's going to be close. So I don't think Najee gets put out of the way where like you can't play him. It's not a great play, but he's good enough. Jalen Warren, better like a 14 to 16 man league that you could flex. Maybe some PPR possibility there, but again, not thrilled with those guys. You definitely start Lamar Jackson. You definitely start Zay Flowers. You definitely start Mark Andrews. You sit Kenny Pickett. I believe Pat Fryman is going to miss. Cameron Haywood would be the next tight end up. Probably sitting him. Allen Robinson, not playing him at all. Do you play the Ravens running backs? It's a good matchup, but do you play them?
Yeah, I think you can play Gus. Gus is kind of another one who's just, is just getting volume week in, week out.
9 points in the end of the day.
Yeah, nothing flashy. That's never kind of been Gus Edwards' MO. It's just steady Eddie, 5 yards a carry. Give me 15 carries and whatever, right? So I think you can play Gus Edwards. I would, I'd play him the same way I would play Dameon Pierce. Fine, whatever.
Yeah, I respect it. Yeah, I mean, I think he's good enough to give you a RB2 play if you needed it. Justice Hill is more of a risky play, but I think there's potential with him. He's got that burst in him as long as he's healthy, but probably less likely to play. George Pickens, are you playing George Pickens at all? Do you like the matchup enough, or do you don't like the quarterback, or you might sit him this week?
I like the matchup, don't like the quarterback. That's the problem right now. And so, now that I thought, because Tuesday when I was reading practice reports, I thought that Kenny Pickett was going to miss this week. So in my mind, I kind of had like no desire. But even an injured Kenny Pickett, I still don't know if I really want to like dip my toe into that. So I'm okay if you want to pivot away from George Pickens this week.
Yeah, he's an okay flex. Not really thrilled about his play this week here. I mean, if he puts up 3 catches for 25 yards again, not really thrilled with it. Again, he only had that one really good game, and that was like a 72-yard touchdown that he caught against the Browns in week 2. So it's not like he's been all that great. He's seen more opportunity, but again, at best at flex. Calvin Austin, I don't know why I put him in the middle there. I don't know. I feel like he could be the guy underneath to see a little bit more work maybe, but again, still not really thrilled to start any Steelers this week either. It's really turning into a league where like, I want to start this offense, but not this offense. So that's it. Let's do that. The Eagles Rams. Are we rolling Dallas Goedert out as tight end still?
Yeah, I think you can. We just, every matchup, I feel like we discuss tight end, and it's, you're looking for a guy who's going to get you 4 or 5 targets and maybe a touchdown. I think Dallas Goedert is that guy. He's 4 or 5 targets, could get you a touchdown. I'm okay starting him. It's not pretty. He certainly isn't getting relied upon the way we all drafted him and expected him. But I also think that, the Philadelphia Eagles offense hasn't been clicking at 100%. So there's room. I'm still okay playing Dallas Goedert. Totally fine.
Yeah. Unlike him and Kyle Pitts, because they haven't scored more than 6.6 points, either one of them this season, Goddard is in a better offense that does love to throw the ball. So I'm not out on Goddard yet in terms of a must start. Kyle Pitts, run first offense, out of the must start. But Dallas Goedert, he's still a must start player, and you got to hope for the best with his situation. There's a lot of starts and sits here. You start Jalen Hurts, you start AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, Puka Anuka, Kerryon Williams, Matthew Stafford, DeAndre Swift. You sit Kenny Gainwell, you sit Van Jefferson. I didn't put this guy in here, but I probably should have. Albert in the chat said, "Do you think Cooper Kupp plays this week?" And that's a kind of a tough question there, because they opened up the window, but I haven't seen any practice reports about Cooper actually playing at this point. I don't know if you have, John. I'm gonna look real quick, but
yeah, I was just looking that up. Hold on one second.
Reports, yeah. So let's say he does play, which I think is less likely. You have to roll him out, obviously. I think you just roll with him in lineups. I think you still roll Puka Anuka, even with Cooper Kupp back, if he's back. But again, I feel less likely he plays this week. I think he might start practicing like next week and start from there. So
Cooper Kupp was limited at practice today.
Limited, okay.
Limited. So going into the weekend with a question, and listen, unless he goes out tomorrow and is a full participant, he'll be going into the weekend with a questionable tag. So you just got to pay attention. But limited.
So you're starting him if he plays.
If he plays, yeah, I think you can. Yeah, I think if he plays, you can. I'm okay Puka as well. Like you can't kind of go away from either guy at this point.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would just pay attention. If you have Kupp, pay attention, because he could be one of those, kind of like Deshaun Watson was this past week. He could be like a last minute decision of whether he plays or not.
Right. Yeah. No, that definitely makes sense. Yeah, I think tomorrow will be a big determinant factor for all of us if he does. I mean, it was nice he got a limited practice in. I didn't think he would get a limited practice in so quickly, but he did. So that's promising. It's a good shot for him to come out and play. So, but if he does play, I think you might have to roll with that shot, unless you're really set at wide receiver that you could wait the week because maybe he's on a limited snap count or whatever it may be. Maybe he gets hurt again. Let's see here. John, are you going back to Tutu Atwell if he plays? If you say Cooper Kupp's there or not, whatever, but do you go back to him? Bad week this week. Last week.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can. I mean, he is kind of, almost like a Tank Dell, similar kind of like he could get you 2 points. He could catch a bomb and make your week. So I tend to flex guys like that more often than flexing like a Michael Thomas. So I'm okay with Tutu Atwell if you want to flex him. If Cooper Kupp is back, it might get a little more risky. Yeah, it's a little more risky, like for sure. But if Cooper Kupp is out, then I'm totally fine throwing Tutu in the lineup.
Yeah, agreed. I think he's better for PPR leagues, but yeah. And then I think Tyler Higbee, like we mentioned about all these tight ends, you just roll him out and hope for the best with him. Yeah. Going ahead here. Cardinals Bengals game here. Finally over this team here. Do we flex Michael Wilson, one of the biggest pickups in this waiver wire week? Do you flex him as a potential option? 77 yards, 89 yards a week before. Are you playing him in a favorable matchup? Could you flex him?
Yeah, of course. Yes. I think you can flex him. And would I? I mean, I'd flex him over a guy like Tutu Atwell.
Yes,
I think
he's over Michael Thomas probably.
Over Michael Thomas, I'd play Michael Wilson. I agree. So I think yes, if that's the world that we're talking about, for sure, I would play back-to-back good games with Michael Wilson. He was getting a ton of camp hype preseason. Yeah, I think I'm comfortable with that. Like you said, the offense has been looking better than anyone ever expected. So Hollywood looks fine, James Conner looks fine, and Michael Wilson looks like he could be a good flex as well.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I'm okay rolling him out there. I think he's seeing good enough target share that you have to go with it because you know what, right now we got a lot of good wide receivers on bye this week. I mean, Michael Wilson could be the upside play you're looking for in your flex spot. Go back to Jamar Chase, of course, Joe Mixon, James Conner, Hollywood Brown. Zach Ertz is a good tight end. I think that's more of a favorable tight end in this matchup here. You sit any Cincinnati Bengal running back here. We talked about Wilson. We kind of talked about Dobbs already, but if you didn't listen before, I think both me and John are good, especially for super flex leagues for Joshua Dobbs this week. I think we might even set it in a one QB league in a certain situation that you could probably play him. Are you playing Joe Burrow?
Oh boy. So I will say no, because I think at this point you've probably picked up a good enough backup.
Like, do you start Dobbs over Burrow this week?
I would start Dobbs over Burrow. Yeah, in the same matchup, I would start Dobbs over Burrow, which is crazy.
That is crazy. But I get it though. I'm kind of on board with you, to be honest, which is
I just wild. I need to see, like, similar to the game we just got from Justin Fields. Like, I just need to see it once to give me the level of confidence to even. We haven't seen it at all this season from Joe Burrow, and all we hear is the calf strain, limited, not 100%. It's like, all right, I can't keep. I understand that Joe Burrow is probably one of the better quarterbacks in the league, but right now he's clearly not 100%, and this offense is not looking spectacular. So for fantasy, I'm ready to, like, you got to make moves. You got to make pivots. The same way people kind of pivoted from off Justin Fields, you got to kind of pivot off Joe Burrow right now. It's hard to do and it's difficult, but you got to do it.
Agreed. Yeah. I don't really want to start Joe Burrow, and I think I would start Dobbs over Burrow, which is crazy to say, but yeah, I prefer not to start Joe Burrow if I can. The Cardinals are terrible against running back, so this is a big Joe Mixon week, I think, personally. Next up, the New York Jets and the Denver Broncos. Are we starting one of the Denver Broncos running backs at all?
Probably not, because if
let's start off, say Javonte misses this game.
So Jaleel McLaughlin.
Would you take a chance on him as a flex option? If maybe you need an RB desperately, would you take a shot on him in that situation?
I mean, I guess he is a speedy, sort of electric type of player. And, if Javonte's out, he is the type of guy that can make your week with, a couple big plays. So I'm okay with it, but I'm not like,
you're not thrilled about
I'm not thrilled that I have to start Jaleel McLaughlin against the Jets. I think this game is going to be very, very low scoring. It's going to be kind of a slog fest. So I'd rather not, but I get it if you're in that situation and you just paid whatever 30% of your fab to add this guy. He could have a 20-point game, be usable, so be very serviceable for fantasy. But I also could see him having a 5-point game as well, and it's kind of a slog between him and Pirine, and Marvin Mims starts getting jet sweeps in the backfield, all this stuff. So it could be the idea that Javonte's out, Jaleel's in. It's not, to me, it's not that cut and dry.
I respect it. Yeah. If all three play, I prefer not to start any of them. If Williams is out, you have to be like, let's risk it all. Let's throw McLaughlin in there and hope for the best and hope that he gets some of these big plays that he showed us the week before, but not super confident in any of these Denver Broncos right now. You start Breece Hall. I think he's going to get unleashed this week per what his coach said. Garrett Wilson, I think Russell Wilson's a good enough start at quarterback. Not great, but he's been good. He's giving you 20 points. Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy, they're fine flexes. They're not great flexes. It's a tough matchup for them, but they're fine. Adam Trotman is a sit. Dalvin Cook. Do you play Zach Wilson in a 1 QB league?
Nope.
He looked good on Monday night, and they have a fantastic matchup.
I know.
Like, is it, do you start Joe Burrow over Zach Wilson over Joe Burrow?
Oh my God! Why would you do that to me?
Because that might be a question. That might be
Yeah,
something.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, I guess I probably would play Zach Wilson over Joe Burrow, because
Oh,
I think the Broncos defense is obviously horrendous. So yeah, you could get
you
frisky.
could.
You could
You're
get
gonna like it,
frisky.
probably not, but you
You
could.
could get frisky.
It makes a ton of sense to do that.
Yep.
But yeah. You'd have to be really tripping balls if you're planning on starting Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
Marvin Mims, again, not the situation is that he doesn't have the snaps, but makes big plays. This is a type of game where you can make big plays, but not thrilled to play him either until he sees more work.
Nope.
The
His talent is super high. He'll always have highlight reel plays, but until he starts getting more than 20% snaps, you can't play him. It's just not possible.
Right, exactly. Now, this game hopefully is going to be the big game of the week where it's like a 35-45 final score between the Chiefs and the Vikings. I'm really hoping it's just like with the Chargers and the Vikings a few weeks ago. I'm hoping for the same for this Chiefs-Vikings game. But biggest question here and a potential shootout could be, are we trusting Alexander Mattison in a starting lineup?
Mm-hmm.
He's looked good the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, he did look good. I think the Kansas City matchup's kind of a tough matchup for running backs.
It is.
I think that they're going to have to. I think the Vikings are going to have to throw the ball a ton. To me, this is a very, very going to be a pass happy game. But yeah, you can start Madison. I think there's he in a high scoring game. He has a chance as a touchdown as much as any other running back. So I'm okay if you have to start him, but I don't like using the word trust. I don't trust it, but I get it if you have to start him.
I know, I get it. We have a question in the chat for me, Chaka. Would you trade Courtland Sutton and Javonte Williams for Scary Terry, PPR league?
Sutton and Javonte for Terry in PPR. I would probably. It stinks because you're losing a running back, and running backs are so valuable. But I don't. You're getting a Sutton is sort of a week in, week out, risky flex play, whereas Terry is kind of in your lineup every week, no matter what, and you just hope for. So that's kind of where I would put that. But I get that it would be difficult to replace any level of a running back off the waiver wire, so.
Right. In Dynasty, I think I'd be less likely to want to do this, but in redraft for this season alone, I think it's a fair trade for both sides personally, because I think Sutton's not terrible. He's not great. Javonte is banged up. We don't know how the rest of his season's going to go, so there's a lot of risk there. And you still get a good wide receiver giving up Terry McLaurin. And if you get Terry McLaurin, you have yourself a strong wide receiver 3 that should put up a couple more touchdowns throughout the rest of the season here to give you some kind of, especially in PPR leagues, some decent play for the rest of the year. So I would make that trade personally. I would. I think it's a solid trade because I don't think Javonte will ever be the guy we want him to be this season. If it is, it's going to be late in the year, because I don't think you come off an injury to have another injury and be in a 3-man rotation right now. So yeah, I'm good with that. Let's see here. So John, you kind of mentioned your trust on Alexander Mattison. I'm kind of off on him too this week. I prefer not to start him. I think this is a trap game where it's a high scoring game here. You do want to start though Patrick Mahomes, Kirk Cousins, Travis Kelce, Justin Jefferson, TJ Atkinson, Isaiah Pacheco. You sit KJ Osborne, even though I think he could be in for a touchdown kind of day. You sit most of the Kansas City receivers because you just don't know who the heck's going to be that great. But in deeper man leagues, maybe Rishi Rice is a guy you might want to play. And a normal 12-10, whatever man league here, do you go back to Jordan Addison after a bad week?
Yeah, I think you can. Yeah, I think you can, especially in what should be a high scoring game where Minnesota is going to have to throw the ball a lot. I think it's just like we talked about earlier, rookies just every once in a while will put up a dud. It happens. It just happens.
Right. Sky Moore at all? Favorable matchup?
I mean, yes, I think you can because how bad Minnesota Vikings secondary is, and I think you can absolutely play and flex Sky Moore. I'm gonna. Yep.
I'm gonna make my call here for the day. I'm gonna call it out that Rishi Rice has his breakout game this week. He is going to have his breakout game this week.
I would hope so.
Rice breakout. I'm calling it.
That would be awesome.
Can't wait till Sunday now.
The fantasy coaches league that would love that for my team.
Well, you don't play me this week, so it's okay. Yeah. Sky Moore is fine. Yeah, I mean, I think you want to go back to both these guys, Addison and Moore. I think you can. I think the matchup makes sense, but Addison much more than Sky Moore. And Cam Akers, if we're sitting Madison, definitely not starting Cam Akers yet. So I'll call that one out there. And then I think we're 2 more to go, right? Yeah, 2 more with 10 minutes left. All right, let's finish this up. Cowboys 49ers, the big Sunday night football game. Question of the game: do you go with Dak or Purdy in this game?
Ooh, that's a good question. I had
tough question.
that is a tough question.
That's exactly what that is.
I had someone ask me Brock Purdy or Sam Howell today, and I thought that was tough. But Dak and Purdy is even harder. I would probably play Purdy. I am absolutely terrified of the San Francisco 49ers defense. I don't think Purdy will have a bad game. My fear with Purdy, they're going to score. 49ers will score points. My fear with Purdy is, does Christian McCaffrey just run them all in? So that's the only fear with Purdy, but I would probably play Purdy.
Yeah. I'm on the same page. Purdy gives me a better feeling overall on that situation, just because I trust what Purdy does in this 49ers offense. They're focused on the run. People are worrying about Christian McCaffrey. Purdy will get his moments to shine. Dak has not shown me much of signs of life, even though they haven't had to use Dak in that situation. But even against the Cardinals game, Dak wasn't that impressive when they were behind in that game here. So I would lean towards Purdy here. You start Tony Pollard, you start CMC, you start Brandon Ayuk, CeeDee Lamb, you sit Michael Gallup. Even though Michael Gallup might have somewhat of a decent game, but you sit him still. I think it's kind of hard to trust him. But if you wanted to throw him out there, you could. Brandon Cooks is a sit. He's not playing well at all. Do you go back to guys like Kittle and Deebo Samuels this week? You just throw them in and say hope for the best?
I think you can. George Kittle for sure. I mean, again, we're talking tight ends here. I will play George Kittle. Deebo, I think you got to monitor the injury. If he's banged up or limited in practice tomorrow, I might, maybe shy away. This could be a tough game, but I also understand, like, who are you replacing with Deebo Samuel? That's the question. True. That's the question. So I think the 49ers offense is just a plethora of players, and it's a ton of touchdowns, and CMC is going to get at least one, and then you hope the other guys all kind of split up the rest.
Right. Yeah, I think you just got to go back to him. Kittle is the guy you just start all season and just hope for the best. He's definitely a guy. He's going to have bad weeks, but he's going to have those blow up weeks at some point. You just have to start and hope for the best with him. Deebo, you kind of go back to him. I don't like him as a strong wide receiver too personally, but you go back to him and hope that he gets some targets. Surprised he didn't get any targets. I guess the injury could have really affected his play in this game. But he was mostly just a decoy all game, I think, because he played the full snaps, but he didn't get any targets. So I think it was more of a decoy thing for him. Jake Ferguson, you could go back to. He had a decent day there, but not fully trusting him. But I do like that he saw 7 targets and actually caught 7 targets. So that was nice. And then the big Monday Night Football game, Packers, Raiders. Which Packer wide receiver do you trust?
I think you can play both. I think you could play both Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs. I think you can do. I think honestly, the Las Vegas Raiders don't scare me at all as a secondary, as a defense. My only fear is that Green Bay gets up early and maybe just lean on Aaron Jones. But I could see this game being kind of a sneaky, high-scoring affair, and I'm okay with Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs.
Yeah, I am too. I think I'd lean towards Doubs in this matchup still. I like what he's doing. I like the connection him and Jordan Love have shown us, and they talked about that in the offseason. and it's coming around now. He's picking up the pace, double-digit targets in back-to-back games. Don't know if he's gonna get double digits in this game, but I do like both these guys. I think Dobbs I'd lean towards if I had to choose one, but I do like both. Jalen Reed could be a sneaky play. Just keep him in mind, but it's probably not for normal 12-man leagues. He's probably more like dynasty or deeper man leagues. You start Jordan Love, you start Josh Jacobs, Aaron Jones, you go back to if Devontae Adams plays, you play him. AJ Dillon, you sit. The Raiders tight ends want nothing to do with them. They have the lowest target share in the league here. Jacoby Myers. Do you go back to Jacoby Myers this week?
Yeah, I think you can. I think you can flex him. Devontae Adams came up with a questionable tag today, so
he didn't practice today, so
that's something to monitor. I'm okay with Jacoby Myers. Like I said, I think this game to me is one of those games where if it's, I don't know, if the over under is at 48 points, like I wouldn't be shocked at the end of the week. Neither one of these defenses really scares me, and they have enough offensive weapons to put up points. So yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay starting Jacoby Myers.
Yeah, I am too. As long as Jimmy G plays, it seems like if those two aren't playing together, they don't do well when neither one of them is on the field. So if they're both on the field, I'm good going back to Jacoby Myers. Luke Musgrave is an okay rookie tight end that you could play. So yeah, this game will be interesting. It's Devontae Adams' first game against his Packers, his old Packers. Too bad Rodgers isn't there. That would be better. But it's going to be a fun game on Monday Night Football. But that's gonna wrap us up tonight. John, is there anything you wanted to mention before we get going?
No. Subscribe to the YouTube channel as always. We're steadily growing. We're pumping away. I want to give a big shout out to the co-host of the FTLS podcast and my best friend Brian Strait. It is rivalry week this week. I am playing him in the FTLS, and I hope he loses in a miserable fashion, because there's nothing that makes me happier than beating him. This is an emotionally big week for me, especially in the FTL, because I'm 1-3 right now. 1-4 losing to Brian could absolutely derail me mentally. 2-3 after beating Brian could absolutely, I'd be on a totally different planet. So this is a big week for me.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love a good fantasy week. Hopefully I have a lot of matchups that are gonna hopefully get me another win this week here. What else has been going on? I got my article I have to do. It's a lot of work. I'm nowhere near done, so I'm gonna be going tonight. I finished 8th though on the Fantasy Pros
I love
expert rankers this past weekend, so that was fun.
Hoping to do it again. I know how hard that is. I know the work that goes into it, and so congratulations.
Appreciate it. So the only thing is though, I might have been higher had I not forgot to adjust Dave Montgomery from the bottom of my RB rankings to like RB at least like 15 or something like that. I might have finished as the top 5.
You had him down there because he missed.
I had him so low.
Yeah.
We'll have another question real quick. Mo Diesel. Start 2. Wan'Dale Robinson, Antonio Gibson, Joshua Downs, and Jalen Reynolds, half-point PPR.
Josh Downs and Josh Reynolds, maybe. Yeah. Wow. I don't know. Although I like Wan'Dale. I like Wan'Dale Robinson. I guess maybe Wan'Dale
and
Josh Reynolds.
Josh Reynolds. Yeah, that's the two
I would do. I guess I would do Wan'Dale and Josh Reynolds. Yeah. I'm okay with that. I mean, either it's Josh Reynolds for me for sure, and then either Wan'Dale or Josh Downs, but I probably would lean Wan'Dale just because he's looked good the past couple weeks, and I think he's finally starting to get healthy after that injury.
Yeah, he said Gibson goes against Chicago. Does that change your tune on anything?
No, I'm not. Again, like Thursday night, backup running back. I
expect the Commanders to be ahead. I expect this to be a Brian Robinson game, not an Antonio Gibson game, unfortunately.
No.
So he's not seeing the target receptions like J.D. McKissick used to it back in the day for the Commanders. So it's just like, I just don't see what the upside starting him up. Like Wan'Dale seeing 5 targets, 6 targets a game in a favorable matchup. Josh Reynolds is doing well, seeing 5 for 60 each week. So I'd rather go in that direction personally.
Yeah. And the matchup is good against Chicago. I get that. But to me, that kind of bodes well for Brian Robinson. Doesn't really bode well for Antonio Gibson.
Yeah. I think there's an over under 17 carries and 60 yards for Robinson tonight. I'm probably going to go bet over on both of those. So that's how I
17.
feel.
Yeah,
About
if he gets 17 carries against the Chicago Bears, he is going over 60
Oh, he's saying
yards.
because Jameson Williams is back about the Josh Reynolds
Oh,
situation.
yeah, fair. But I still, I don't know. One first week back from Jameson, and again, like the way Dan Campbell was talking about him, it wasn't like it wasn't this very like glowing remarks about Jameson Williams. It was like, he still needs to figure out how to do the little things. And, so it's not like they're going to roll him out there with supreme confidence.
He's
No.
not an elite NFL player yet to like come back and just like how he's getting 80% of the work automatically.
Right.
Like he hasn't
100%.
proved it yet. So I don't think his first game back will be like, like I just mentioned, an elite status. So, and then Stroud, Dak, and Russell Wilson.
Stroud. I would play Stroud.
I would play Stroud too. I
The
like
other
what
two
he's
have
doing.
terrible matchups. Terrible. You're playing the 49ers and the Jets. Like
They actually all have not great matchups, but
Yeah,
I'm trusting what Stroud is doing.
Yeah. I would
Indoor
play
game, hopefully, so that will be beneficial for him too. So that's how I would handle that. So, all right, guys. So again, thank you all for tuning in. Whether you tuned in live on our YouTube channel at the Fantasy Coaches, putting in some questions in the chat, we love that. If you're listening afterwards on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast, we appreciate it. We'll be here every Monday and Thursday, 5:30 p.m. for a good hour talking fantasy, whether it's waiver wires or it's starts and sits or keeper cuts or things like that. We're here for you guys. Tune in also on Sunday for my 30-minute episode. I don't think I did it this past week, but I will do it again. I will do it this week here and be prepared for you guys. So thank you all for listening. Tune in till next time, guys, and have a good one.
Back to back is not far-fetched. We got a couple of Clark Kents. I've been feeling super duper. How the heck they know